Alright, so here we go. Part 2. What I'm trying to do is I've got all my sprues separated. The ones that go together, there was 8 of those, and then 2 of those, and 2 of those. So I pretty much all got them separated out. And I got a bunch down here in the top and bottom part of the box. There's a bunch of parts in there. Those I don't need till later. So what I'm trying to do right now is get this top display base for the model. I'm not gluing it together, I'm just getting it together so I can get a measurement on how big it's going to be. Because I bought a piece of wood that I'm going to have to cut down for this to set on. I'll probably have to cut it lengthways and widthways. That makes sense. The piece I got's too long right now, but it also might be too wide. So I'm just trying to get this together and see what I got, get a measurement so I can get that board cut, and then we can go from there. Then I'll start putting it together. It's not real hard to do. Here's one of them here, okay, you can see, and then here's the end piece, goes on the end, and all they do is, you can see there's a little tab there and a little is that male part right there, and they just kind of click together, just get them lined up. Little end pieces are the hardest. See, this one being so small, they don't want to stay in there. Okay, let me try it again for you. Never works on camera the first time. But it's because it's this small one here on the end and it's kind of tough. There you go. That's how they go together. Now, I've got to take, and I'm just dry fitting right now, but if you can see right there, I've got to go through every one of these where the factory took them off of a sprue, I guess, and I got to get them off there to get a nice tight fit. And then I'll show you what I do from there, because I'm going to beef this up. It's nice the way it goes together, but I think it needs a little bit more support. Alright, so let me get this 2 pieces on there, and I'm going to get a measurement. Okay, well, that piece measures 43, let me step in front of the camera here a minute, 43 3/4 inches long and 8 1/8 inches wide. So over here is my board, I'm leaning up against the wall. Now right now that's a 6-foot long board, so I got to trim it down. Now the width I think is okay. I think I'll be alright. I have a little bit of room. I think that's 11 1/4 inches wide or something like that, 11 3/4. So I'll have enough room to lay this track on that board to the back of it, and then have me a space up in the front of it about that wide that I got plans for. Okay, so I think that board will be alright. But I do want to get this beefed up. Okay, it's got pretty good flex to it right now. Alright, and I got to trim all these little edges, like I said, because they're not lining up real good. Not bad, but you know, it could be better. But yeah, I'm going to have to beef that up underneath of it to get that springiness out of it. I've seen another guy do that. He's got a bunch of still pictures on the internet, and that's what he did, and I think that's a good idea. Won't be hard to do. Just run some styrene. Oh, about, what is there? There's 7 of these. There's 7 of these. And probably what I'll do is put a piece of styrene across here and one across here. Or I don't know, I might just do one. We'll have to see. I'll come to that when I get there. But, alright, so I'm going to get started with this. I'm going to have to run that down to my son-in-law's house to get his saw so I can cut that down. And I got some other wood I want to trim it with. I want to put a little edge on around it. Alright, and then all these sprues over here will be where I start at. Okay, this is the part where I start. I'm going to have to walk in front of the camera. This is where I start putting these little railroad cars together. They look like that. Okay, so like I said, there's all the wheels. There's 8 sprues with wheels on it, and mostly all these sprues right here are for these cars. Some of the pieces come off of here, like the top of the car. Again, I think that's what that is. And over here, so basically these 1, 2, 3, 4, that's A, B, C, and D, are going to be for these cars. And then these 2 sprues here are the railroad tracks. Okay, so, and all the rest are kind of sitting in there. I'll get to them later. Alright, I think that's about it for this part of the video. There's going to be more to come, because we're going to get started on this. I've got some more stuff coming. I don't have my paint yet, and there's some other things I want. So I got that on order. So probably by the time this video comes out, and probably later in a section of this video, I hope that stuff will be here, so I can get going. But I got enough to get me started to get all this together and get that board cut. Alright, stay tuned, because I'm sure there's going to be more. Okay, so let me show you what I'm doing here. Every one of these, they came like this, but the factory must have took them off of the sprues, alright? And every one of them had a little spot. There's one there, there was 3. How many was there? 4, 5, 6. I think there was about, here's 1, 7, 8, 9. I had about 9 little spots where I had to take my file and just lightly go over that and knock that down. Okay, that's where they cut them off of the sprue at. And then these ones on the side here, I had to knock them down so that it would sit level, sit nice and flat. Now, you might not think that's a big deal, you know, but these are. These ones where the 2 meet together, those were important, because you want these 2 pieces fitting nice and tight together. Here's one you can see more of. Where's it at? Where I sanded them at. Okay. And then I went over these here, these little railroad cars. And I went over them. Now I'm wearing my magnifiers, alright? Let me tell you something. These parts they're perfect. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not warped, anything. All these little pieces and designs that they got in it are nice and crisp and clean. But I went over this real good. I went over every angle, every way I could turn it, looking for any kind of flash. And every one of these, I don't know if it's showing up, but right there is a little bitty piece of flashing, okay? Just barely sticking up. And I just take my file, just go over it lightly, and then this way, feel it, and it's gone. But every one of them had that little bitty spot where it had some flashing on it. And I mean, you can't see it with the naked eye hardly. but I could see it with these magnifiers. And let me tell you, when you're all done and you get it all painted and you start taking pictures of it, that will show up. Now, you got to do this for every piece you take off a sprue. Wherever you cut these pieces off of the sprue, you got to do this. If you don't, it will show up in your model. So take the time and just get you a couple of these little files. If you watched my tips and tricks, told you I buy mine at the beauty supply store, okay? Pretty cheap over there, and they work good. But you're going to have to do that for each and every piece. And if you got, I think, like I said, there's well over 1,000 pieces here. Yeah. You're going to be at this for a while. But it only took me, 10, 15 minutes to go through each and every one of these and look at them real good and look for any defects. Now, you're talking about defects, and I don't know if it's going to show up. Let me see if I can find one where it shows up real good. I'm looking for it. It's on every one of them. But here, this one, I don't think this is going to show up on the camera at all. Right in this area. I don't know, what done it, how, if it was made like that in the mold, but I can see like a fine line down here. I don't know if it's showing up, but I can see a pattern there. Here's a good one right here. There's a fine line running right down through there. One right here. So I don't know if they when they made this mold for this gravel, if they had sections that they were moving, in the mold making process, when they're building their mold, instead of somebody just didn't sit there and carve out each and every one of these little rocks. I'm sure there's a pattern in there, and yeah, I can see it right here. There's a pattern. This little section of rock right here is the same as this little section of rock right here. It stands out like a sore thumb. It's a pattern. So, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to take care of that. Here it is again. So I'm sure when they were making the metal molds, that they probably had something that was about this size, and then they move it down and moved it down, and that's what's left them lines in there. I don't know. I've seen them make molds. I've seen people make molds before. I used to deliver a lot of them to companies, and they're high dollar. But yeah, I'm sure that's probably what they did here. Had some kind of process where they could have a small pattern and just keep repeating it. All right. But it is there. I can see it. I can see it with just my glasses on. I have no idea if you can possibly see that or not. But I got a plan for that. No big deal. But that's the kind of things you look for as you're going through and over every part. You just got to take your time. You cut a part off, and you can take your knife and trim it a little bit, okay, and then sand it. It doesn't take nothing to sand this stuff. You sand on it for a couple seconds. You put any kind of pressure on it, you'll see your mistake. So I prefer to use the little stick. Usually what I do is when I cut my parts off the sprue, I usually cut them quite close, but I do leave some extra so I can sand it off, because if you cut it too close, you take the chance of screwing up your part. So I usually leave maybe a 32nd of an inch or less than a millimeter when I'm cutting them off, and then I just sand it nice and smooth. All right, so I'm going to go through some of these other larger parts. Let's see, they're in the bigger box down here. Hold on a minute. I think what I'm going to do, I'm trying to get it while I'm waiting to go down to my son-in-law's house and cut that board. I think what I'm going to do is take a couple of these and start putting them together. Get these bigger parts put together so they're out of the way. I'm not sure this is the right one. I think there's a right and a left. FF it says. FL. So let me see here. Let me look at this. Let me get the other two out. Okay. FR. That'd be front right, front left. FF and FF. So I don't know. I think they're both the same. I think they're identical, but I'll look at the plans before I put it together to make sure. But I'm going to go over each and every one of these and look and see if there's any flashing or anything, so I can clean them up. You can see a couple little spots right here that need to be cleaned up. See them? These here are in the inside, so they're out of the way. There's 3 of them there. Oh, here's one right here. See this? Can you see that? Wish I had something to put behind it. Let me put my hand behind it. You see that little piece sticking up? That has to be taken off. There's another one on this end. So those are the kind of things you got to look for. You got to go through, get all that stuff off of there. Okay. Enough of that. I'm going to continue on messing with some of these parts, trying to clean them up, get them ready. And then I got to get that piece of wood cut so I can start on this base. Probably going to have to go to a hobby store and get me some more styrene. I don't have enough. So I can put a piece of styrene across here. All right. We'll be back. Okay, here I am a few days later, and I got my base, my board all cut. Let me turn my screen around so I can see what you're seeing. Alright, so I got my base cut. It's 46 inches long, plus a 1/4 inch on each side for a border I put around it. Alright. So that's about 46.5 inches long. Okay, and it's just about ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this track bed. Okay, these things right here. I went ahead and cut all my tracks off. All right, right there. You can see that's a pretty nice little track. And every one of these had a seam line down the middle of the top and the middle of the bottom. So I had to sand that seam line out on every one of these. And I think there's 28 of them. And let me tell you, this is a testament to how well this model is made so far. I haven't got any farther than this. But these tracks have got to slide into each one of these little slots. I think there's 16 of them. You just start it at one end and just shove it right on in there. And this is, like I said, a testament of how well this is made. There's no flashing inside of these little slots at all that I can find. And these tracks just slide right in there to each and every one of them. Each and every one of them has to line up just right for this tracks to work. Now, here's the dilemma I got. How to paint this. Obviously I can't put it all together and then try and spray it because it's 43 3/4 inches long. So I would have to take it outside and do that. So what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and get all these assembled like this. Okay, I'm not going to glue these in yet, but I just want to get these tracks in each and every one of them. If I assembled all this, I'd have to slide this track all the way down each and every one of these to get it to work. Now here's one I'm having a little trouble with, but it's going. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead. I've already got all the other ones done. Get these lined up to where they're even on both ends. And then what I'm going to do here is take these, I've got all the other ones done, and I'm going to flip them over. Okay. Do this all the way down with all of them. And I cut these little 1-inch squares. And as I put this together, okay, I'm going to put these little 1-inch squares in here where there's a seam, and then clamp them down in there. Alright, like that. And that'll help hold this together, I think, a little bit better. Alright, and I'm going to do that all the way down the track. Because I think if I painted this first, I would have trouble trying to slide them tracks in there, because paint would get down in there and it would make it kind of difficult to get them tracks back in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all together. Assemble this on this table. Now what I'm going to do here is, I got some wax paper. I'm going to lay me a piece of wax paper down on here so I don't get no glue dripping through onto this wood, which it wouldn't make any difference. This is all getting covered up, but I just want to keep it clean. But I'll go ahead and assemble this thing all the way down, get it all together nice and neat, glue it up so that this will become one piece. And with them tracks being on there, it makes it a lot more solid when I'm working on this. Okay? Now, I had talked about putting a piece of plastic across the middle here, sort of like that, to help give it some strength in the center. I've come up with a different idea. I bought me another piece of wood, a piece of oak. Oh, it's about, I don't know what it is, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. But I got to cut it down. It's a little too thick. I got to cut it down so it's level with this across here, okay? So I'll take that piece of wood then and I will glue it down on my base, so when I flip this over, that piece of wood will wind up in the middle here and give me that support I was talking about that I'm going to need, okay? So I'll be gluing that piece of wood down right around here somewhere, okay, all the way down it, and then I'll set this down on there and glue this to that piece of wood. That piece of wood will be nice and solid, give this a little bit more strength. It's a piece of oak. I don't think this is going to flex, but you don't want to take that chance. So I think that piece of oak will be like a backbone and give this a little more strength, plus it will keep this from flexing. That flexes too much to my liking. So if I get that piece of wood under there, it'll make it nice and solid. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these together. And then I'll come back along and I'm going to hand paint my railroad ties and my track. I got a little idea I might try out for the tops of these tracks. The tops of the tracks should be like a silver, nice and shiny, you know, like they've been used. A railroad tack would be shiny on the top if it's been used. But I'm gonna hand paint all the ties and the tracks. I think that's the easiest way to go. It's not going to be that difficult, you know. Sure, it'd be nice to take an airbrush and do that, but you know, like I said, there's no way 46 inches is going to fit inside that booth. All right, so let me go ahead and get my wax paper down, and get these flipped over, and start putting them together. And we'll come back once I get that done. Okay, well, as you can see, each and every one of these joints have been glued together with a little piece of 1-inch square styrene. And for that, I used the good old testers in the tube. And some of these little joints here were a little bit too wide for my Tamaya. So I ran a little bit of this down through each and every one of them seams and then pushed it in there with my finger. This is where this kind of stuff comes in handy. It's a little bit thicker and works a little bit better, I think. So let me let this set up, and then we'll flip her over and see how well she is. I'm not too worried about the other side of it if the joints ain't lined up just perfect, because I got plans for that. Alright, so you can see it's going to set in here. Oh, I think I'm going to have close to 1 inch on either end. So it'll sit in there about like that. I got about 1 inch on either end, and then I'm going to shove it pretty much all the way to the back. So that'll be the way it goes. Alright, nothing else I can do now but just let it sit. You can see it takes up so much room. I don't know where this is going when it gets done. I guess I'm going to have to put some shelves up in this room, because yeah, it's quite big. Alright, enough for this one. Okay, so I think that's enough for part 2. We got enough here to make a nice little video. I think this is going to take a while. This right here, just working on this track and that's going to be a model in itself. What's so time consuming is, like I said, I had 28 railroad tracks that I had to sand on each and every one of them. So this ain't just like a small model where you got a couple pieces that got to fit together and you got to sand and make them fit and look nice. You know, there's 28 railroad tracks, there's 7, counting the 2 ends, 9 pieces of that track bed. And so yeah, you know, like I said, there's well over 1,000 some parts that I got to sand on each and every one of them. So this is going to take a while. So don't look for this to be any kind of quickie video to get this done. Alright, one other thing. I noticed probably in this video, some of you people probably saw my pants I'm wearing, okay? Now, these are not pajamas. They got pockets in them. Alright, pajamas don't have pockets in them. These are my hang around the house relax pants. If you haven't got any of these, get some. They are the most comfortable thing. When I'm down here working in that, they just, you don't even know you're wearing them. Alright, they're just real nice and comfortable. So don't make fun of my pants. My kids and my wife call them my clown pants. I do not go outside in them, no. But I might walk out to the mailbox, but I make sure nobody's watching. Alright, so like I said, I think that's about it. I think we showed enough on this one. I'm waiting on this stuff to dry. Probably be tomorrow, and I'll come down and take the clamps off and flip it over and see what we got. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thanks for watching.